Hey everyone, higher running coach and Hoka athlete Sage Canaday here with another Training Talk Tuesday, episode number 37. Hope this talk finds you well this holiday season. Hope you're staying healthy, most importantly, and safe out there. Thanks for following along. We're going to dive right into your top voted question. I think it's been maybe 2 weeks, but here we go. Top voted question. How's it going, Sage? Would be interested to hear your thoughts on vitamins/supplements for fellow vegan runners. I know you've discussed vitamin deficiency in old 2014 Training Talk, but wondering if you had if anything has changed or you'd add anything. Cheers, have a great Christmas. Yeah, hope your holiday season's going well. Wanted to get this out before the new year. Yes, I've done some training nutritional talks over the years, over the last 12 years here on the YouTube. And, I was born and raised vegetarian. That's a disclaimer. I've been vegan more or less for the last 6 years Coach Sandy and I. Sometimes I have some honey here and there, accidentally have things with dairy or eggs in it. Occasionally when I travel, butter cookies, things like that, especially international traveling. But, in the US, pretty easy to eat vegan. That's no animal products, essentially. And we like to say whole foods plant-based because the idea, and I don't always do that, but the idea is that you're eating less highly processed food, less empty calories, refined sugar. Of course, I like my desserts and I have a sweet tooth and, I'll have things with a lot of oils, hydrogenated oils in it and, alcohol, empty calories, so to speak. My diet is not healthy or perfect, far from it. But while I'm going with that disclaimer, obviously I'm not a registered dietitian. Consult your doctor before trying anything new. This advice is not meant to cure, prevent, or treat any disease. It's a legal disclaimer we like to say here in the US. Everyone is different, but I come at it from, someone who took a lot of nutrition classes at Cornell University in college, as well as biology and chemistry, and looking at it from a science standpoint, there's a lot of different ways to get in vitamins and nutrients that you need. And then there's a lot of differences with our DNA in terms of how we may respond to different dietary patterns, right? A lot of it is genetic. A lot of it could also be lifestyle, environmental factors. Stress, exercise. Being an endurance athlete is a lot different from someone who doesn't exercise at all, right? There's a lot of health benefits, but there's also a lot of stress that needs to be countered with diet, hydration status, life-work balance, stress, that changes your hormones, how much you sleep, and all that good stuff. So it's very complex. And, as humans, we are very closely related. We're also fairly closely related to chimpanzees and apes and stuff like that. But, we definitely evolved to be omnivores. I'm not saying that we're herbivores. That's common misconception here. People are like, oh, you crazy vegans. You say obviously, the human body is amazing at adapting to a lot of things. We could basically eat plastic now and, it survive, but just because you could survive on a certain diet for a certain amount of time doesn't mean that's always best for longevity. And what's always best for longevity doesn't always necessarily mean it's best for ideal health and quality of life, so to speak, right? Because there's a mental component with diet and people get, emotionally, it's an emotional response to diet because it's tied into our culture, our histories and cultures and religion even, and those are all more subjective things that have moral implications as well as strong belief systems and values. So of course people get very upset when you say, oh, you can't eat this, but you should eat this, and there's these even political differences. But coming from the plant-based side, again, I think everyone could agree, excess calories and like soda pops and really sweet desserts with a bunch of refined sugars, a bunch of empty calories, generally pretty bad for the human body. It's great. Sugar is great for fueling you when you're doing endurance activities. Don't get me wrong, straight up refined sugar, but, a lot of people that causes obesity and other health issues. But eating excess calories in general causes obesity and other health issues, be it diabetes or, high cholesterol, poor blood flow, cancer, could be diet related. It could also be, kind of crap luck with genetics and DNA, and how you turn on and off genes that are in your DNA through diet and lifestyle factors is a very complex thing with all sorts of variables. I'm not going to pretend I know all the answers to it. So what has changed with my mind in terms of vegetarian or vegan diet? Not much, honestly. I would say I've put more weight into having a balanced diet in terms of amino acid profile or total protein. As a vegan athlete, an endurance athlete especially, athletes have higher demands than regular people. And it's not just if you're a gym bro or you're doing really, big muscle building, high intensity sports, even something like distance running, there's a lot of muscle breakdown and a lot of damage caused from the stress of high mileage training or mountain running or, marathon training. And so our protein needs are a bit higher. And I would be more, as I get older especially, I'm like, okay, you need to make sure you're not just eating peanut butter all the time. You got to mix up some amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So getting a quality protein supplement in, you're always thinking of that. Probably more so as a plant-based athlete, but there's plenty of plant-based sources. Again, if you complete full amino acid, all the essential amino acids, then you have all the building blocks you need. Can you eat steak and get a lot of protein? Probably, yeah, a lot more. Is it more bioavailable? I mean, in one meal, yes, but the body could pull together amino acids over hours and over several different meals. If I eat beans and rice, those are complementary amino acids. Quinoa, a grain like quinoa, has all 9, I believe, essential amino acids in it, all in one punch. A lot of times I'm mixing, matching these together. I'm eating legumes, I'm eating nuts and beans and rice and grains, and even some vegetables have a lot of amino acids in them, fruit even. So blending that together, will I take a protein shake smoothie supplement, so to speak? Yeah, sometimes I will now. That's one difference, right? Instead of just making a peanut butter banana smoothie with some soy milk or something like that, thinking, okay, I'm going to add some pea protein powder. That also has maybe some other minerals and nutrients in it, like magnesium, and I'm drinking a lot of coconut water. It's got a lot of potassium in it, a lot of electrolytes. So that's kind of changed. I've broke down how many grams of protein I get in a day, and it's usually plenty as a vegan vegetarian. It's a common misconception we don't get enough. But as an endurance athlete, everyone needs to be aware of how much protein they need. And it's not just about the macros. It's not just about the proteins, carbs, and fat. But I will get into the fat as a concern for, It's a concern for all athletes. But things like iron, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D was brought up, as well as vitamin B12, probably the biggest ones. But you know what? I see these things with a grain of salt, grain of salt, pun intended. I always like to say that. In terms of monitoring this, getting a professional opinion, and in terms of, everyone's different, everyone has different taste buds, everyone has different preferences. You're strongly influenced by your parents and culture that you grew up in, usually. But, the research is out there. And with a plant-based, whole foods plant-based diet, you're eating less processed foods, you're eating more whole grains, it's generally going to be more carb heavy and lower in saturated, or there's no saturated fat basically, lower in saturated fat or lower in fat totals, as well as, slightly lower in protein compared to someone who probably eats a lot of red meat or something like that. But like I said, I ran with a lot of teammates in college and at, the Division I level, NCAA, a lot of distance runners, a lot of professionally on the marathon scene in Michigan, training with Hanson's Brooks Olympic Development Program. A lot of those guys are eating red meat multiple times a week. Guess what? They still get low on iron. They still get injured quite a bit. People like to always blame the vegan diet. If you have any health issue, a lot of times it's probably not even diet related at all. It's not that simple usually. If you're training 140 miles a week, 220 kilometers a week, or whatever that is, there's a good chance you're probably going to get injured, right? So, these guys that have low bone density, they get stress fractures, they're drinking milk and calcium, cow's dairy milk all the time. They're eating red meat all the time, still get low on iron. It's an athlete problem. You're pushing your body to a lot of extremes. You're putting a lot of stress on it. Do you have low bone density because you're low in vitamin D chronically? Maybe. Could it just be genetics? Yes, maybe. Could it be diet related? Yeah, also. But you bring out that stress when you start running a lot. If you didn't run, you might not get a stress fracture in your tibia or your metatarsal, right? You might not have tendinitis problems and muscle tears. It's a demanding sport. It's a demanding sport. You could lose a lot of, electrolytes. You start sweating out a lot of magnesium, potassium, right? You could get low on something like magnesium. Maybe you don't eat enough nuts, or you're not supplementing with it, or you need to supplement with it. I don't know. But that could very well be the case. Same thing with wearing a lot of clothes in the winter. Going outside, you're not getting the sun exposure that we used to maybe when populations lived near the equator and we didn't wear as many clothes and weren't inside all day. You get low in vitamin D, right? Vitamin D is a thing that's synthesized with sunlight. A lot of people chronically low in vitamin D. It doesn't even matter what their diet is. Being vegan or plant-based or not, eating meat, still low in vitamin D. Right? So I'd actually go out to say, in my opinion, a lot of Americans are low in vitamin D, and they're just walking around and they don't even know it. And if you start running and you start having some health issues, be it with your skin or your vision or your bones, could it be related to chronic low vitamin D? Definitely. Personally, it is something that I supplement with. I will say that, fat-soluble vitamin. But you got to be careful with some of these things you could overdose on. Something like iron is a constant concern for endurance athletes. Again, maybe slightly more common in people that are vegan or plant-based, but it's also more common in females. It's more common if you're running high mileage. But like I said, a lot of guys that eat red meat could still get low on iron. That's something you have to be really careful with if you start taking a supplement. Consult your doctor before trying anything new. Get your values checked. Because if you overdose on iron, if you're taking too much, very bad for you. It could be fatal. A lot of things, if you overdose on, it's very dangerous, or if you're taking too much, it's going to strain, some of your organs. So very bad for you. Sponsor plug here. Sandy and I are both sponsored by a company called Athlete Blood Test. They do blood testing and track a lot of these things like iron, magnesium, complete blood cell count. It's really fun. You could see in your profile, you get a bunch of blood drawn at something like LabCorp here in the US, and they analyze it. These are professional people that are athletes, that are hardcore scientists. They have an athlete range, but also the normal range for people that aren't exercising. And you could see the differences in some of these results, but they give you points on how to improve something in your diet or your training to, increase your testosterone levels, or to make sure your vitamin D levels are in check, especially heading into the cold winter months, or something, if anything like B12 is low, or iron, vitamin D, because then you could take appropriate action. If you know something's low, then you could work with your doctor or a medical professional to address it, correct the problem, make sure you're in optimal health, because it'll really affect your running performance, your energy levels, how you feel. You could see the screen there, Athlete Blood Test. I got mine checked several months ago. You could see some of the things that they break down there. Low in vitamin D a little bit. Like I said, doesn't necessarily mean it's a vegan problem, but something that a lot of Americans probably have, honestly. And you could see, the metabolic panels. There's all sorts of different categories. They're testing you for general health and well-being, but also to maximize your athletic performance. And the only way to get these quantitative data, this number, is to look at it through this type of lens and get the scientific analysis. Enter code SAGE15 for a discount. That's 15% off comprehensive big panel. I like the gold panel myself personally. It checks a lot of different things, iron, ferritins broken down there. You can see the differences. So, that makes a big difference. That's something I'd say over the years we've gotten more into, but I've been getting my blood checked since I was in high school, since I started running, checking for B12 and things like that. So, we covered the protein, we covered the iron, magnesium. You lose a lot of that through, sweat and hard work, stress on the body, right? Another concern, of course, is vitamin B12. A lot of people think it's just magically in meat. It's in the bacteria in the soil, the fermentation process of that comes off. Cows or something might ingest that, and then if you eat animal products, you kind of get it residually from them. A lot of athletes are low in vitamin B12 anyway, though. It's something that it's pretty hard to absorb with if you're taking like a supplement, an oral tablet. You get a very small percentage of it in the body, and it's very important for energy production. So always monitoring vitamin B12 levels. Don't want to be low on that. You don't really want to be low on B6 or B9 either. But that's something I definitely always have monitored, and it's something I've been able to keep in check. You can see in the analysis there, my levels are not low. Important for brain function as well. So B12. The final thing I touch on, that's probably have changed slightly, but I looked at a training talk video I did from 2013 about this. I was still plugging Flora Health Udo's oil, is omega-3 fatty acids, especially the EPA, DHA, essential fatty acids. I think those are very important to take. A lot of people will get those from eating seafood, from eating fish, something like that. Again, seafood, fish, a lot of it, it's not super high in like saturated fat, and it's not so much of a concern. I don't like the taste of seafood. I've tried it, but it's not so much of a concern of that. It's that a lot of fish, especially in the Great Lakes out here in Ohio, get contaminated with heavy metals, PCBs, lead, mercury, stuff like that. A lot of the fish, a lot of seafood, there's shortages across in ocean environments. So getting healthy fish to eat and healthy seafood, a lot of times it's not very sustainable, but it's also could be full of some of those toxins. Those are a great source, though, of these fatty acids, I will say, and some people get them in fish oil supplements. You could actually get a vegan form of that. It's algae derived, and it's going straight EPA, DHA. You are converting some ALA as well in things like flaxseed, flax meal. There's all sorts of sources of that, but that's something that I don't mess around with either. I actually do take, I'm not even sponsored by Flora anymore. They actually dropped me a long time ago, but I do take some of those spoonfuls of oil just for those EPA, DHA types of omega-3 fatty acids that are very essential for brain function, neuromuscular function, stuff like that. Pretty important stuff. And again, you get it. I have a lot of flax meal as well, but that's something that, as a plant-based athlete or an athlete in general, again, I am quite on top of, probably even more now. But yeah, that kind of wraps it up. I hopefully answered that question. We have a whole plant-based athlete resource page on our website, higherrunning.com. Coach Sandy worked on it a lot, and she's been vegan for longer than I have, basically, and is a lot more strict and eats healthy. A lot of antioxidants you get in fresh fruits and vegetables. Eating your greens, eating salads, it's just, keeps you hydrated. It's, a solid diet, I think, and that's my opinion personally, but there's a lot of science and literature out there that supports it, as well as, having that variety, right? The mixing of all sorts of things that give you these macronutrients and these micronutrients in the right dosages at the right time. Timing of meals is also important with your exercise, and balancing life stress and your sleep and recovery with all these other things, your actual running training, hard training, hydration status, and all the complexities that go into general health and diet that I admit I do not know, and I'm not totally an expert on, but trying to figure it out. But we've definitely seen a lot of improvements for a lot of people, improving their health, their well-being, feeling good, getting out there, running, getting energized, stuff like that, getting a higher quality of life, but also probably increasing their longevity, hopefully, too. So that's really the goal of all this. Again, shout out to Athlete Blood Tests. I'll put a link in the description below. Enter code SAGE15 for a discount. This type of panel and analysis really helped out Sandy and I dial things in, and thankful to them for their support. But thanks for your support. Thanks for watching this video. Really, really appreciate it. Again, hope your holiday season's going well as we kick off into 2022. I got more content coming your way, training vlogs. You can follow me on Instagram at Sage Canaday, also on that handle on TikTok and Twitter for more quick running tips and advice. Thank you so much to the Patreon supporters for really making this channel possible. Check out our training plans at higherrunning.com. We sell training plans for any surface, any distance. Shout out to title sponsor Hoka One One, or just Hoka now. Keeping the dream alive. Hope you're doing well, and stay tuned for more VO2 Max Productions.